seen it.
Walk the scales needed. Holy shit, guys. That was an epic delay. I mean, we're talking ninjas that we had to murder.
Yes.
We're talking skateboards that we had to kickflip.
Yes.
We're talking goats that we had to sacrifice.
And I know that it was extremely inconvenient for this on-demand media format in which we work, that is podcasting, that we started an hour later than we normally start. But I think it's going to give this podcast a unique energy.
Yeah.
And what is that energy?
We're from the future now.
Yes, exactly. We're all an hour older and a little bit wiser than we would have been had we started at the usual time.
And that wisdom has already been put to good use because you started telling me a story that I did not want to hear until we were live.
Oh. Which one was that?
About your cheat meal guide.
Oh, yeah. So recently I've been cycling my diet such that I eat one cheat day every other weekend. So it'll be this coming Saturday, and I get very excited about it. But I've noticed that I get so excited that I can't think clearly. I spend literally all of my life leading up to that cheat day just daydreaming about all of the foods I'm going to eat on that cheat. Like that, I have a very unhealthy relationship with food. I want to let everyone know that. So I just think about, all this shit all the time, and then the cheat day comes and my mind's a blank because I'm so excited. So
I guess I'll just slather lard in between two Pop-Tarts again.
Exactly. It's like I guess I'll just whatever.
That sounds yummy. I want to try that now.
That does sound pretty
I
delicious.
actually more like the idea that Kyle just accidentally eats healthy that day. He's
Yeah,
like, fuck, I messed it up.
Yes, exactly. And that's a danger that I'm trying to avoid. So I decided to get technology in on it to help solve this problem, and I've started in my Notes app. I built an app specifically for this purpose, but it's kind of like those apps, like My Pal or anything, but whatever's the opposite of that.
My Fatness Pal.
My Fatness Pal. We should start My Fatness Pal. Actually, that's a pretty good idea.
Oh yeah, I like that.
My Fatness Pal is a good idea. Trademark it, Chase now.
Guys, this week's episode, My Fatness Pal.
All right, so I started a document, and it's really, it's kind of free form. It's extemporaneous. It's a lot, it's like a Burroughs novel. It's whatever, it's thoughts as they tumble into it's like Finnegan's Wake. So it's called Cheat Day, and it goes like this. Let's see, what do we got on here? Wendy's.
That's the top? That's just what you were thinking at the
I was
moment.
walking through the student union on one of my rucks, and I passed by a Wendy's, and I thought to myself, that really was the inception point for this entire thing. Because I was like, I need to write down that Wendy's is good, and I should dip French fries into a Frosty.
And you didn't want to be like,
I didn't want to forget that.
Siri, remind me to eat Wendy's on Saturday.
No, this is better. Anyway, so Wendy's, McDonald's.
Well, naturally, just stop at every place, man.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all around.
Next item, P. Terry's.
I'm sensing a theme
yes.
here.
Well, I think we're gonna get out of it in a second. But P. Terry's, for those of you who don't know, is Austin's equivalent to like an In-N-Out burger. It's like if In-N-Out burger were
Except
good.
better.
Fuck you. First of all, I've never had P. Terry's, but there's literally an In-N-Out sticker on my laptop.
Yeah, and there will be a P. Terry's sticker on that laptop after you go to P. Terry's because it's way better.
As you eat like from that burger sticker.
It's not good, huh?
So what do we got? We have Wendy's, McDonald's, P. Terry's. Next item, York peppermint patty.
Hey, that is a
awesome.
nice and refreshing palate cleanser.
Yeah. It's almost autobiographical because as I go through them, I remember where I was when this occurred to me. I was at a convenience store with my girlfriend, and I looked down and I saw the York peppermint patty, and I was like, God, I want to eat that shit so bad right now. And I thought I'll put it on the list. Next, Jenny's ice cream. We've discussed this, not on pod, but Jenny's ice cream is really fucking good. Did you tried it?
I did.
Yeah. How is it?
It was good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It was I don't know if it's $10 a pint. It's big.
Yeah.
So
I think Armin doesn't like it because he's just eating sugar all day, every day, whereas
That's
Kyle
true.
had it in
It
the
tasted
context of-
really good
that's
to me.
true. And also that flavor, the flavor that you suggested is not my usual go-to style of ice cream. You suggested brown butter almond brittle, which was really good. I mean, there was a lot. The one thing that you mentioned was depth of flavor. And there's certainly a lot of depth of flavor there. There's the salty, there's the fatty, there's the sweet. It was really nice.
Yeah.
But the one that I'm very interested in trying is the Brambleberry Crisp.
Oh, yes.
I have no idea what a Brambleberry is, but it sounds delicious. And if it's what I envision it being, I would pay $10 for that pint of ice cream.
It's kind of like spring in a pint of ice cream.
It's just hard for me to look at a pint of ice cream that costs $10 and think to myself, man, I could get 2 pints of Ben & Jerry's.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing is actually, and Kara had said I should get the Brambleberry, but I'm more of like a savory chocolate spectrum sort of a guy, so I didn't want to go with anything fruity. I did try the Midwest whiskey pecan ice cream, also really good. Actually, does taste like whiskey. Wow. So, but in a good way, that works for ice cream.
There's another ice cream flavor. It's not Jenny's. It's like a white pint with like a black and white checker top and red writing, and it's churro.
Oh,
flavor.
you told me about this. Yeah,
that churro ice cream is legit.
We need to look that up.
Very, very good.
I need to add that to the list.
You should definitely add that to the list.
Churro ice cream. I'm going to add that right now.
Top your Saturday night off with some churro ice cream.
Yeah, there will be multiple pints of ice cream. I'm not going to play this amateur game where I pick 1 pint of ice cream per bi-weekly cheat day. But the thing is, you got to space it out. Now, like, we're going to get to like down here near the bottom, just after. So we got Chipotle burrito, cookies from Central Market. Pasta from Central Market.
Any particular cookies? Any particular pasta?
They just have a lot of good fresh cookies over there. They do have a pasta that is like a chicken casserole pasta that you can you buy. It's like a cream sauce with chicken and all sort of like fusilli pasta and bacon and stuff in it. That oh my god, it's so fucking good.
What I am loving about this whole list, by the way, is I can picture all the spots, their physical geographical location where you got this idea, and to do a cheat day as just one long like a pub hop thing, a pub crawl,
a pub crawl.
So you're just walking.
Cheat crawl.
The whole way to all these places. That could be done. That should be planned out ahead of time.
Yeah, I know, and that's the problem. Is that you want to do this logistic work right now while your mind is primed. You want to be thinking about geography. You want to be thinking about timing, because as you see right here below, pasta, Domino's. Next thing it says Oreos, but parenthetical to follow Oreos parentheses with morning coffee ? And because it's like once you get deep into the day and you've already had your ice cream, you're thinking, is it really worth going and stuffing Oreos in my face? But I'm sitting there, I'm drinking coffee in the morning anyway. Why not have Oreos with the morning coffee?
Oreos are basically breakfast cereal.
Exactly.
So what you're doing is starting your day
I think they literally did become a breakfast cereal, didn't they?
Yes. There is Oreos breakfast cereal.
In the way that in the United States, taking a dessert and shrinking it turns it into a breakfast cereal.
Exactly. And then final item is donuts. I would say Round Rock donuts, except I'm probably not going to make it to Round Rock anytime soon. But those are the best donuts.
There are so many donut places within walking distance of that whole circuit.
Yes, that's true. And I'm going to I really think that if I take an organized approach to this cheat day, I can really maximize my input in a way that that I haven't been able to achieve before. So I'm going to optimize the cheat day.
Now let's put out some KPIs here. Key performance indexes.
Yes.
Indicators, indices, whatever. How many are you telling me you're going to make happen? Because I'm going to check back with you next week. And we're gonna have to know.
What I don't want to do is I think that anything above 3 is good. I think if we're getting into the 6 territory, I think that's the level I'm trying to get to. Because what happens is you get up, you go to, let's say, like a diner, because I love diner breakfast. That's been a staple of every cheat day thus far on this plan. Yeah. But then you go and you eat like a breakfast chicken fried steak, or you eat like chicken and waffles, or a huge hash, or something like that. Then you're not hungry, and you're like, do I really need anything else? Because you haven't planned, and your brain immediately switches off that I need to get all these carbs in me receptor. So here's my thought: is that by planning it out a little bit better, I don't want it to be one big meal and then I eventually get hungry, and another cheat meal, and then I get hungry and another cheat meal. I kind of corrected that last time by incorporating an ice cream pint earlier in the day. Right. So after I'd had my breakfast or lunch, I forget which cheat. I had cheat meal pizza. I had East Side Pies for lunch, then returned immediately home and consumed a pint of ice cream.
Yeah.
That was a good, and plus, I think the salty sweet balance there was able to reduce the kind of temporal proximity between those things, so that I was able to eat them back to back.
As Michael Scott says, it's never too early for ice cream.
It is never too early.
By the way, I have an excellent idea that's for a breakfast on a cheat day that came impromptu to me. Not quite. Promptu to me just because of circumstance, but amazingly enough, I was still hungry afterwards. It was the day after the McGregor fight, which happened at my place. So we can talk about that later. Was very hungry and tired and pissed off from the previous night, and sure enough, was cheated all to hell the previous night with pizza and donuts. So it's like I should be all done cheated out. But sure enough, there was a fresh, unopened bag of Cheetos there. Not the individual bag of Cheetos, but, you know, the family-sized bag of Cheetos. And so while sitting at my laptop rewatching the McGregor-Mayweather fight, I, before the fight was over, had managed to polish off the entire bag of Cheetos while sitting there. And, sure enough, I wasn't satiated afterwards.
Of course not.
Because there was still some fried chicken left over, which I then ate all of immediately after the appetizer of the family-sized bag of Cheetos.
That's good work. And people think, like, how could he possibly do that? That's because we have spent years building this level of capacity. You don't want to jump in now because that's just too much volume. But we've built this capacity up over time so that we can maintain that. We are the Rich Fronings of eating crap.
It's a ladder. Like, you don't start playing basketball and you're not immediately Michael Jordan. Like, you know, it takes some time, it takes some effort, and it takes innate talent.
Yes, and that's the thing. And also and this is where I'm really thinking is that forethought is a big thing here, because on the day, especially when you're in your kind of you're a little bit carb foggy, you know, you begin to lack the initiative to get out there because your desire for carbs is reduced and your energy level is reduced. So I've actually been considering buying supplies the day before to make sure that it is all within arm's reach.
Yeah.
I have even considered, though I do not think I have the fortitude for this, but idea here, because if you only have one cheat day, what's the one thing that you can't do? You can't eat cold leftover pizza the next morning. So order a pizza the night before. Talk about alternative ways of approaching this whole breakfast problem. Order a pizza the night before, put it directly in the fridge, get up the next morning, pizza breakfast, followed by a pint of ice cream.
This man has cracked the code. He sees the lines in the matrix.
Yeah, it's extra sweet. I know, because at first, my first thought was, well, that would just be torture to order a pizza the night before and then not eat it. But now I realize that level of delayed gratification is almost sadistic.
It's like dodgeball.
Such that next morning, good Lord, that would be the best tasting pizza
it's like
ever
you spent
been there.
the entire night choking yourself.
Yes.
Exactly.
And finally get to finish.
Yes,
on
exactly.
your breakfast.
Exactly. All over that pizza. And
you've just described Kyle's entire Friday night.
But I'm gonna do is I'm gonna order that pizza on Friday night and just smell it, and then just fucking do burpees with that pizza sitting there right on my living room floor.
I'm gonna fuck you
right.
I'm gonna fuck you so hard. No, what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to kneel over that. I'm gonna put the pizza in the middle of my bed, and I'm gonna kneel over it, and then flex into the mirror like Christian Bale in American Psycho.
I'm just imagining.
Are you gonna stare at it or are you gonna eat it?
It's going to be. God damn it.
Are you gonna stare at it or are you gonna eat it?
Fantastic.
No, but that's what it's going to be, though. It's going to be Kyle the next day flexing in the mirror while eating the pizza.
Yeah.
Like just staring at himself.
That's creepily close to my actual existence when the doors close at home. It's a lot of just flexing in the mirror and then just eating bad food. Yeah.
Yeah, I am constantly wearing the least amount of clothing in my home possible and also eating the worst foods possible. I will accidentally polish off a gallon of ice cream a week.
Yeah.
Just not paying attention.
Yeah.
And it's horrific.
Yeah.
It really is a problem in my life.
And yet still six-pack abs. I
Yeah,
know I've seen
worked
his
very
six-pack abs
Son of a
today.
bitch. Yes.
This day.
Yes. Why have I seen it? Because we've been at the office all day. Because that's just how Armin rolls. Somehow those abs will come out over the course of the day. By the way, speaking of which, to kind of pivot out of eating crap into eating better stuff, follow both Chris Bell's YouTube channel and Mark Bell's YouTube channel. So Chris Bell did a video where he, in reference to like Dom DiAgostino had been on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about this amazing like keto ice cream that he had tasted, and he said like the recipe's available online somewhere. So I listened to that podcast. Then on Chris Bell's YouTube channel, Chris Bell makes that. He said, I heard this on the podcast. I heard it was pretty cool. So he looks it up and he makes it on his thing and he eats it and he's like, this is amazing. It tastes like a Wendy's Frosty. I mean, it's a lot of just like coconut oil and fat and all sorts of stuff. It's like it's a lot of fat, you know, but it's like sweetened with stevia and some various things. But it's a cool recipe. But he just kind of goes on and on about how good it is. Then jumping over yet again to another media source on Mark Bell's YouTube channel, at the end of the video of his post from yesterday or something, he does a whole video. It's just kind of his vlog, but he's been hanging out with his brother's in town. He's hanging out with them, and at the very end of the video, they do a little tag where he's eating the keto ice cream, and he turns to the camera and he says, "So I've been having a conversation with Chris, and I think we've made a decision to pursue like commercializing this keto ice cream recipe." And actually, and then they're like, we really just want this to exist, and whether it's us or somebody else, we just need this to be a thing that is available for people to have. And so they just kind of tease that. So I'm excited about guest and friend of the podcast.
That's right.
For Mark Bell producing some awesome keto ice cream.
He's currently the #1 guest.
Yes.
On the Scales Needed podcast
the
world.
best guest we've ever had.
Yeah. And I would not put it past him to make that into another $1 million business.
No, he's doing well.
Yeah, he crushes.
Look at what he did with the fucking slingshot, which I'm not poo-pooing
it's
there.
incredible.
But just think ahead of time. A rubber band to make you bench press more. Who'd have thought that would catch on like wildfire?
Yeah.
He thought and succeeded.
Yeah, he did. It's very, very impressive stuff out of him.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched a bunch of Mark Bell's stuff, and he had a really interesting video recently about Dallas McCarver and Rich Piana. Who both died within a few days of each other.
Yeah, I saw that where he was talking about the steroids issue and as it relates to that.
And I don't really have a relationship to bodybuilding the way I feel like you guys might have a relationship to bodybuilding.
I know even less.
Well, I didn't like do bodybuilding, but that was definitely my first route. All of my first route into fitness and exercise was for the first, 5 or 6 years of it, was exclusively bodybuilding content broadly. It was the bodybuilding magazines and Arnold Schwarzenegger's bodybuilding encyclopedia, and all of my first attempts from, I'm talking about the age of like 14 through 20. 14 through 20 was all. I didn't know there was exercise that wasn't bodybuilding exercise.
Right.
The first thing that buzzed me out of that was finding Mark Ripito, and this is a strength training program. I never heard of such a thing. It's like, how can you do a strength training program where you're not hitting the upper pecs? Really, it's a brand new information. The first,
obviously this is flawed.
Yeah, exactly. It is. When you do the upper pecs need to be sore. But yes, I'm familiar on that level. I've always been in touch with it a little bit over that time. But you were saying,
well, I don't know if they died because of steroids, but the steroids certainly didn't fucking help.
No,
that's for sure. They definitely didn't keep them healthy.
Well, I think there was a lot of, especially with
longer.
Well, I think the Dallas McCarver thing, the report was that he had choked on food. Like he talked to his girlfriend, and then she came over and she found him or something like that, and he was already dead, and he had choked to death or something, which is just kind of sad. I think that Rich Piana kind of became a very easy target for speculation for obvious fucking reasons, because he obviously is pumping his body. He's been open about pumping his body with all that sorts of shit, and he looks crazy and and all that kind of stuff. But it was interesting. Just so when a lot of people were like, there were reports coming out about, well, there was white powder found, and then he has all these steroids and this sort of things. And I've already heard people saying it seems like he was doing opiates as well, or potentially had trouble in the past, and that had caused him to, was what actually caused him to pass out, was the fact that he was like snorting Oxycontin. That was actually in the Mark Bell video. He said he heard the rumor that he was snorting Oxy or something like that. But just today, on Rich Piana's YouTube channel, his girlfriend, who was there when he died, or there when he died, and also there when he fell. She just kind of walks through the entire. I mean, she's very emotional, obviously, and stuff. But she's like said, she kind of starts the video saying, "I'm sick of all the speculation and all the rumors and all the things." So she walks through like everything that happened, kind of beat by beat, of him passing out, hitting his head, all of that while she was cutting his hair, the whole thing. And then she addresses each one of those things and says, it's like, yes, there was like white powder somewhere. No, it wasn't opiates or drugs or anything like that. She makes a claim that her claim is that like it was just there was a lot of pre-workout around, and that sometime he snorts his pre-workout before things, which I don't, she seemed sincere, but who knows?
That sounds like fucking bullshit.
Yeah, but anyway, but she insists that it wasn't that sort of stuff, yada yada. So anyway, it's an interesting video. It's worth a watch.
Any major insights there? Because I haven't seen that yet. Very curious.
That, she just basically says that there wasn't steroids, there wasn't there wasn't opiates, and then she. The main thing is just she gives a detailed description of all of what happened. Like they went into the bathroom, that he was standing, she was like on a stool or something above him. I don't know exactly what, cutting his hair. He leaned against the wall in front. She wasn't sure why he was leaning. Then all of a sudden he just fell backwards kind of on her and hit his head. And then he was breathing funny. And then she called the ambulance and like while doing chest compressions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, worth a watch. Very sad. But
yeah, in fact, Cliff paid his respects on Saturday night.
Cliff, who he's not a Johnny-come-lately. All right, no. Cliff already was a member of the 5% nutrition consumption or patronage.
That's right.
And that
you betcha.
He bought the big. What was it, the 5%
the 5% nutrition jug, which is not quite 1 gallon, but it's close.
And also it's 5% off of 1 gallon.
Yeah.
And also the
designed for the all day you may BCAAs.
Yes.
Not meant for just around a workout.
No.
It's meant for all day.
Because you may want BCAAs all day.
And so we poured out some BCAAs for.
I did.
Yep. Drank the rest of it, but did spill some there.
Video available now on the best goddamn Instagram account on the internet at Mr. Kyle Bogart.
Yeah. Well,
very somber here.
I mean, I wouldn't say the best goddamn, because you're using Boomerang like it's 2016.
I'm using Boomerang like a goddamn Instagram master.
230 views in 3 days. You're really lighting it up.
I'm just amazed at how big my goddamn hand is, because that's a big ass jug, and man, my hand is enormous. It doesn't look like much there.
Imagine how big his dick is. I mean, his hand is like just.
You'd have to imagine, because no one's ever gonna see it. Hey-oh, zing, zing, zing. Bang, bang,
hopefully
boom.
none of you guys
and
ever.
This video was taken at Cliff's house for the McGregor Mayweather fight.
Yeah.
Where, incidentally, and more importantly, I managed to not really break my diet the whole time, which
that was
very
which is weird as shit. Yeah, I don't understand
pizza,
that.
I had one piece of fried chicken.
So you just waited for the next day to do that, or you were good the whole weekend?
No, there was no week. This was not one of my
okay, interesting.
So I couldn't do anything.
Yes, I did. I don't have official cheat days. Back to food there, but yes, the McGregor Mayweather fight, huge cultural moment. Very excited about it. Inviting all these guys were here. About 20 plus people, all in my place. Gathered around the TV for a long, boring event up until the fight, but we're all such anticipation. We are primed and ready.
I think you're hurrying to the punchline here. Let me let me put a little bit more color on that. So it was a party, crowded house, full of people.
20, 25 people.
Yeah, everyone shows up at 8. The fight, as everyone knows, was delayed quite a bit because of various outages around the country. Outages, not power outages, but outages in the pay-per-view stream specifically.
Yes.
So, we're trying to entertain ourselves as best we can. We're eating, we're having fun, we're chatting it up, but pretty much at a certain point, everyone is ready for the fucking fight to start because no one cares about the boxing undercard.
Yeah, after like the Cookie Monster punched, some 8th grade middle schooler in the back of the head. We were just kind of fucking over it. And wanted to watch Conor McGregor fight Floyd Mayweather.
And so, So, for those of you who don't know, Texas, where we are now, was slammed recently by a huge hurricane, which has flooded a gigantic hurricane.
14 trillion gallons of water.
Yeah, and there have been around the Austin area roaming power outages and things. This was kind of in the middle of it. That was like I think day 2 or so of us getting it. We didn't get it nearly as bad as Houston, but it was it was basically a huge thunderstorm that lasted for like 2 straight days here in Austin. So, getting back to it, Cliff, we are primed and ready to start watching the Conor McGregor fight. They walk out, the fight begins, and
we are in the middle of the first round where we're seeing exciting things play out. We're seeing Conor land some shots. Oh my God, it's the most exciting thing. Everyone is on their feet, and then all the power goes out.
Yes. For those who didn't understand that, the power went out to the entire house.
Sorry, I rushed through that.
Yes.
The power went out.
Yes.
Is what I meant to say.
Now, the power went out to the entire block in the middle of the first round of the Conor McGregor fight.
It was literally the moment where Conor McGregor hits him with that first uppercut, and the announcers are saying something like, he tagged him with an uppercut.
And then
you remember better than I do.
All of a sudden, we are in a black room.
Yep.
You know, we went from about 20 people crowded into a living, more than 20, maybe 25 people crowded around a gigantic 60-inch television, however big it is, all watching, having a good time.
We measured the TV in Cliff's dick
instruments.
It was 2.5 Cliff.
It depends on if you're measuring diagonal or horizontal there.
But the dick as well.
Diagonal across the dick.
Yep. Ooh, that's true. I never thought of that. Can you? Oh, you can artificially inflate dick length by just measuring the ruler diagonally instead of straightforward.
That's true.
I'm going to do that now.
Both of those points are on your dick, so it makes sense.
But
dick is a 3-dimensional, not 2-dimensional.
I measure dick by volume.
Yes.
Water displacement.
Exactly. Yes. Water displacement test, the only objective way.
But if you move,
you like lean over a bathtub full of water.
Yes.
And you dip in.
Yes.
And you measure your displacement.
Or is there a way that you could put like a sensor on like one end or on the other end so that not only are you going diagonally across the X and Y axis, but also across the Z axis?
Exactly.
So
I was just thinking
depth length as well. So that
just because there's probably some curvature, so you want to go in the longest possible direction.
It's actually the tip of my dick. It's older than the base of my dick because of time dilation.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. It's like when you can measure your dick in 4 dimensions. That's when you've really hit.
The important is that the gravity is stronger at the base of your dick than the top of your dick.
That's right.
But yeah, so first round, Conor lands an uppercut. We are all excited, and then in an instant, as if it were scripted, the entire room goes black. So everyone screams, and for a moment, the power comes back. We all go, yay, and then it goes out almost less than 5 seconds later. And so what happens, we scramble, we grab the only thing that we can watch it on, which is Cliff's iPhone.
Thankfully, an iPhone 6 Plus, not the 6. That is
the biggest of the iPhones.
The biggest of the iPhones, which I think at this point now wasn't a stupid decision. I thought it was stupid this whole time up till then. And then all 25 people, as best they could, gathered around the one iPhone where dimly playing, picking up at midway through round 2, the whole fight played out.
It was the shittiest way to watch
it. It sure was.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we all did it, and at least we had that, but we all did it assuming, hopefully, that, well, we'll just do this for a few minutes until the power comes back on. The power never, ever came back on, at least not while any of us were there. And even this picture that Daniel has, which you can check out on his Instagram account, of then there's a sad-looking me standing next to the phone. Doesn't quite do us justice because that's a flash photo. Yeah. This room was pitch fucking black, and we are watching the fight on a tiny phone.
Yep, and you can see the silhouette of my head at the bottom there. You see, I am awkwardly crouched with one leg pointed in a weird direction, trying to monitor my phone there on the floor, and I don't think my hip has never recovered since then. But
Cliff lacks the mobility to sit on the floor for that length of time.
Oh, fuck yeah. Sitting Indian style. I can't even imagine that. As a kid, you sit Indian style all the time. I can't do that.
I totally can't do that.
Physically unable to sit Indian style.
I can't do it.
Yeah, it's not even close. Not even close.
I could probably get there, but I would not be comfortable. And I would probably have to lean back in order to do it on my hands.
But I think it's all official that the person who has suffered the most from this hurricane and this disaster is probably me for having that fight night ruined there.
I feel like you made money on that fight night.
This is the version of the Instagram photo I did not post.
Yes, this is a better photo.
That's a much more accurate picture.
And I feel like that was zoomed in slightly as well.
This is literally just a black photo with a blurry iPhone screen 15 feet away.
Just 15 feet away.
That about sums it up.
Okay, so you know how like when sometimes you might be on a bus or a train or an airplane, and as it's as it happens, it gets dark, and you look 10 rows ahead of you, and you're like, wow, that person is watching porn, or wow, that person is.
That happened to you?
What? Who doesn't? Wow, that person's watching The Matrix on their phone.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to watch the fight like that over someone's shoulder 10 rows ahead of you on public transit. Pitch black public transit.
But the important thing, Armin, is that we were together.
That's right. That's true. That's right. And it was a real epic game of who's in my mouth. So that was great.
Hey-o.
Well,
so glad it didn't go.
Overall, I thought the fight was fine.
Can tell by the time
the fight itself was great. Wish I could have watched it that way. No, the fight was way more. You can see it now. The fight way more interesting than I thought it would be because one, there was a stoppage as opposed to going the distance and being long and boring. Two, I think this really is a magical scenario where everyone won.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, obviously, Floyd Mayweather won because he won, and of course, winning now having a 50-0 record, which is a nice round number, and being, I think, officially the greatest boxer of all time here. I think it just record-wise and all that. So he definitely won. But also, Conor didn't lose. Why? Well, he won the first 3 rounds and was landing on Floyd throughout the process, and Floyd, the greatest defensive boxer of all time, Conor, I believe, landed more punches on him than any other opponent he's fought.
Damn.
So Conor was not at all embarrassed by it. Looked very good in the first outing there. So he proved, he proved what he could do. And then, yes, Conor really just, completely gassed out. He was floppy-armed and just couldn't move midway through round 8 there. It was basically a sitting duck getting punched at will. Oh, also, there was an additional victory for Mayweather, and Mayweather's been knocked on for not being able to finish anyone lately. He hasn't got any knockouts or TKOs. He also got a TKO there. And then in the post-fight press conference, really, you saw everyone was happy. Mayweather's happy that he won. Conor just had a smile on his face the whole time, shilling his soon-to-be available the notorious Irish whiskey.
Also happy about his $75 million.
Exactly, more than that. Oh it's over $100 million for both of them there.
He's happy with his performance. He's excited about this new product. Oh yeah, and he's also happy that he now has $75 million.
Never has to work again his entire life. The guaranteed purses were $100 million for Floyd and $30 million for Conor. Plus, they each had pieces of the pay-per-view.
And he was talking about that.
Close to like $200 million or more for Floyd and $100 million or more for Conor. So that's
I would be happy if I were
him. I would get in the ring for 30 minutes.
If I got into the ring and all that had happened is Floyd Mayweather punched me in the dick for an hour while calling me a little girl, and I agreed with him in front of the entire audience. Then I would still be happy afterwards if it also came with $100 million.
Yeah, pretty good day.
You could do a lot worse, in fact. I think you could go a whole lot farther. In fact, it's hard for me to think of almost anything I wouldn't do for $100 million. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I would give up a limb for $100 million.
I was just about to go through. How many body parts would one have to lose in order? Because it'd be like that moment in Looper when Paul Dano just starts missing limbs there. You'll remember that. How much of my body would have to be remaining such that I'd be still cool with it with a $100 million payday?
You could replace nearly any part of your body. So.
I could replace the whole lower half of my body with just a pile of $100 million that I could buy shit with. It's like, seriously, I would give up, probably my legs for $100 million. I don't know if I would. I'd have to think about it. But
now that you put me on the spot, sure.
But now,
Look at the bright side. You can do you win the muscle up challenge first off,
would.
And your pull up numbers would just go through the goddamn roof. Maybe you would be able to do the actual legit 100 one arm pull ups, not like that cheater there who's switching arms. You could do that for realsies.
For realsies, yeah.
It was definitely cheating.
Yeah, that one-arm pull-up guy. Fuck that guy, right? I mean, just a million one-arm pull-ups. Fucking assholes.
Yeah, with 2 legs attached to him.
We also, this past weekend, got a chance to watch yet another culturally important milestone in the Game of Thrones season finale.
I thought it was funny. This week was actually, I was watching with with the girlfriend, and she's a book reader, but she takes her Game of Thrones very, very seriously. But she's also kind of a civilian when it comes to watching things, like most pretty much everyone is, and so she's kind of been on board thus far with the whole season and been excited about it, and I've been like complaining about the writing, and she's like, "Shush, you're just being
contrarian bastard."
Yeah, exactly. But even this episode got to her, where she was like,
"Interesting.
That's how Baelish goes out." Spoiler alert, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
But she's like, "It's like that's how Littlefinger."
Bites it,
and it was just sort of like even she was kind of rolling her eyes at half of it, and also the, everything with the meeting and the Dany and Jon Snow and everything. It's just I don't know.
I thought that it was the best episode of the season.
Yeah.
But that's also not saying much.
Yeah, I don't know. Even the loot train episode, like I liked that battle was probably my
the
hype.
battle was better, but that episode,
cool,
that loot train episode was garbage. They just filled 40
Yeah.
minutes hoping that you wouldn't notice that nothing happened until
because of the thing.
But yeah, oddly enough, my reaction to watch I just watched it last night there. I was late to the game because I didn't give a shit and I had better things to do. But watching the finale, honestly, I did also feel it was surprisingly good considering what's gone before, considering that I've been so negative I almost didn't watch the finale on the season thus far. At least I was interested to see what the developments are physically, that we have some more incest.
Our physical developments.
Exactly. we have some business going on. We have some more incest going on between the real heir to the Iron Throne and his aunt, who just ended up fucking there finally after all that all that strong chemistry they've been building up with the whole season so far. Finally have the White Walker army marching on everybody. The path is clear. We can imagine if the show still existed, which it doesn't, that all sorts of interesting things would happen there. And I thought the writing of the show would be worse than it was. See, my expectations were so low for the show that even when Cersei said initially that she was totally going to cooperate and be on board with helping everybody, I thought the writing was so bad that she actually had a change of heart and was all on board now, and all the evil was expelled.
That's the thing.
It could have been that bad.
Yeah, literally at that point, there was no part of me who was just like in any way thrown by Cersei suddenly agreeing to help Dany, because I was like, nothing means anything anymore. So who fucking cares?
So even when she does the little reversal that now she's she's really still scheming behind them, I was like, okay, that's not as bad as it could have been. I thought it was really, really bad. Instead, it's just the one really bad.
Even that just played out in such an unsatisfying way with her just being like, go ahead.
I was gonna say at the very least, I thought in the positives for this episode, I thought Jamie finally being
doing
like
what he should have done like 2 seasons ago.
He's like, damn, you are fucking crazy. I am out of here, and finally fucking booking it. Was cool. Like, I mean, it's crazy that it took this long, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Or just a labored scene of dialogue between them where he's like, "No, I don't think so," and he repeats over and over again, which is, by the way, my favorite hallmark of the writing now, which is just characters just repeating the subtext over and over again. Like Dany's relationship to her dragons, being her children, is established by her repeatedly in this season just saying, "They are my children. They're my children. You don't understand. They're my children." She says, "Well, hold on. Let me circle back here." And then Jamie's decision to. It's like we need Jamie to finally for the straw that breaks the camel's back. We need him to finally go away. Well, it's probably because his oath means something to him, and he breaks it. And she asks him to break an oath that he's made, and he just can't do that. And how is that established? Because he just says over and over again, "I made an oath." Yeah, but we're gonna do all this other stuff. But I made an oath. Yeah, okay, but we're gonna just shore up our armies or whatever. Oath. And then he just walks away.
Yeah, there's definitely, you can see sort of the skeleton of where they could have added all that depth and that like heart into Jamie's decision, from when all of them get together in the Dragon's Pit to Brienne very briefly talking to Jamie, to that conversation between Jamie and Cersei. There's like a very vague outline that it's almost at this point they're writing what you guys said. They're writing the outline, and they're just allowing us with our imagination to fill in where there should be depth and actual.
That's what this actually is here. Oh, by the way, real quick, just to get more on the having to repeat themselves from earlier and how bad the writing is, they repeated the same scene twice in one episode. You know, when Tyrion was having it out with Cersei there, and then it was pointing to the silent mountain. Just have him kill me. And then later, in the same episode,
same episode, Jamie's like, fine, do it. Just have him kill me. I'm like, this is the same shit. But it's not even the same shit in like a playful way. It's like literally they forgot that they copied and pasted that to a different scene. I don't mean they literally forgot, but I mean at some point they said, this is kind of the same end to both of these scenes. We should come up with something else. And then they just never went back and did it. Yeah.
Well, and then not only that, but they've repeated the big reveal 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
Like, my favorite thing afterwards.
What's the big reveal?
Jon
Snow's. Okay, right.
Jon Snow's parentage or whatever. Because the thing that I really enjoyed was that a lot of people, like civilian types on Facebook afterwards, like were like, wait, didn't we already know that?
Yeah.
But like they distrust their audience so much that it's like, hang on, we must do this one more time. Are you ready?
Yeah. I felt like the whole montaged reveal of Jon Snow's true name and true parentage was
and
just
true butt. You see that butt,
dude?
You see
I was most amazed by how completely hairless that butt was.
Oh, it was a shaved. It may have been a shaved butt.
That was a shaved butt.
But it was a nice butt. It was
there
a really good butt.
Silhouette light on it there, and you would have seen fuzz there. That fuzz would have shown in silhouette, but that was smooth,
like a eclipse.
It was good. It was a good butt. It was a great butt. I'll see that butt again. For sure.
I agree. That didn't work for me.
It was too. And my thing is like, man, if you're gonna do that, you have to go in either direction, but you can't do what you did. Like they were kind of in between. They were like, we're gonna toe the line of over dramatization of this moment, but really it's just about them boning and us kind of like laying out what next season they're gonna be arguing about. But
not to mention, it felt like it could have happened or not happened and came completely out of nowhere.
Exactly.
It's like when he shows up at her door, I'm like, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, he was basically like that entire thing about how do we get back to Winterfell? And they're like, well, Jon Snow has to take a boat, and she's like, I guess I could take my dragons, and Jon's like, you want to take a ride on the boat?
Yeah.
I got this sweet boat.
We should take a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And or 4 seconds of screen time together.
The thing about boats are, I generally have to jerk off a lot while I'm on them. I'd rather put it inside you because it's warmer and wetter than my hand.
You ever been on a boat and felt the motion of the ocean?
My dick.
Yeah. So I just wish that they had either like made it like a throwaway thing and not played it up so much, or they had just like made it the entire point of the fucking episode.
Yep. It's funny. I encountered something. I encountered this week. I think one of my favorite and one of my favorite, most concise articulations of what's wrong with these seasons and why they feel so off. I mean, we all know the workings behind, because obviously it's no longer based on anything that George R. R. Martin's writing, and it's just these two doofuses trying to make shit up. But my favorite articulation thus far of that difference is this, which is it was a YouTube video, I think, by the YouTube channel Wisecrack, which does some pretty good analysis of things. But I like this video because they talked about the defining attribute of the first 5 seasons of the show was the fact that it was constantly subverting the expectation of what one would of the tropes of of the fantasy genre. So the handsome prince, like the sort of Guinevere and whatever thing, is actually like a brother and sister fucking each other. Like the characters who are supposed to be noble are actually terrible. When you see a heroic character like Robb Stark, who would be the hero in any other story, he gets killed. When you see Ned Stark become honorable, he gets dead. It's constantly taking what we are to expect out of a classic sword and sorcery story, and really stories, more broadly, and constantly fucking with them. Constantly, it was the defining. So if we have, and anyway, so that sets up the expectation that the resolution of this will also subvert the expectation of a classical fantasy story. And now in these seasons, now that it is no longer based on George R.R. Martin's work, we are in a season that is just delivering upon the expectations of a classical fantasy story. So they were talking about Jon Snow is now our unkillable hero who can survive anything. The unrequited love between the two of them is now coming together. The army of the dead is marching in. Like everything that would normally happen, that we would expect to happen, and Game of Thrones was defined by subverting that expectation, now is the actual narrative and thematic and character thrust of the whole show. It's just like all the shit, and it's true, it reminded me when they were saying it of how I thought to myself in earlier seasons when the show was good, thinking about, man, like at the end, Daenerys on the Iron Throne, or Jon Snow this or that, and then immediately thinking, but that can't be the way it ends. Like, it has to be something crazy and outside that I had not even expected, because that's what Game of Thrones was.
Or if that is how it ends, it has to be at like a brutal cost.
Exactly.
An absolutely insurmountable cost to everyone involved.
Exactly. And now instead, whatever your kind of basest inkling of how it was going to end is the actual show.
Yeah.
Just like whatever, in your heart, like whatever your aunt, however she thinks the show should resolve, that's what you're seeing.
And
you're
also
seeing
fuck her.
Yes, exactly. You're seeing the aunt version.
Yeah.
And she's seeing that butt. That's right.
Didn't we all? Yeah. And, the dragon blowing down the wall was pretty cool. I guess it looked cool. It was like
cool.
It was pretty cool looking visuals.
I'm just trying to figure out the rules of its ice flame.
No, there's no rules.
Does the ice flame, is it just like destroys stonemasonry? Is that its whole power, or does it freeze things more?
It's a concussive thing more than a burny thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense.
No, it absolutely doesn't make sense, because also the whole point of the wall was as well, like, it had a magic deal. That's why, Benjen couldn't come back.
Right. It's both a magical barrier and a physical barrier.
Which is exactly what Kara brought up. She says they've talked about in the text of the show that the children of the forest or something put a thing in the wall so that that White Walkers can't cross it, and now they've just sort of thrown that out.
Yeah, and one of the things floating around right now that I fully subscribe to is that last year when they did the whole thing with Bran in the cave, and he got touched by the Night King or whatever, and then that allowed the Night King to then enter the cave because Bran was already in the cave or whatever. That they were setting that up as the reason why they could pass. But then this year they were like, shit, we need a cliffhanger. How do we do that instead? And so instead of doing the thing that they had logically set up, like as a thing that would work within the rules of the show and the books and etc., like, blue ice flame?
Blue ice flame.
Oh, by the way, this is yet another thing that so many things bother me, but just thinking about it again. Why on earth, there's not even a contrived logic by which one would think that their producing of a single dead zombie guy would convince anyone that this was anything other than one single dead zombie guy they happen to contrive. After all, there are magical people around who can cast spells.
Not to mention that, like, deceit and trickery sort of defines the entire Game of Thrones world, and yet no one seemed to have an issue, including Cersei. Like, as much as there was deception,
the characters who should have had issues with it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even as much as Cersei, there was deception at work in the end of the episode, it was just assumed that upon seeing Skeleton Face, that everyone is immediately on board with the fact that there is a giant 500,000 strong army of the dead that is marching towards. And it's like, why? Because it was narratively expedient, and that's it.
I mean, it was it's narratively expedient, and it's also just a contrived way of just getting us to the point where it's like, this is just going to happen, whatever. Like, getting all of our guys beyond
let
the
it
wall.
happen.
Would it have been better? Would it have been better if this season and maybe even next season was very similar to what had happened previously? All of this, like, political infighting and relationships being developed, and all of it sort of taking up their time and them spinning their wheels trying to kind of get anything going in terms of stopping the Night King. Night King makes it across the wall using whatever the fuck magic he makes his way across the wall with, and ends up killing everyone. And at the end of the the series ends actually less with so much us worrying about the Game of Thrones and more with like Bran going back in time to like warg into the original, the first man who turns into the Night King and stopping it from the get-go, and then like waking up with his legs working in the beginning of the first episode.
Doctor Strange ending.
Yeah, exactly. Like why not just do it that way? Why not do it all like the oh shit, he went back and changed all of time like option. I mean, if we're gonna just fucking use all the fucking tropes we can, why not time travel as well?
I do have to say that there's this fan theory going around that where this is all headed, of course, is that Bran is the Night King and that whole thing, which I normally wouldn't give too much attention to. However, I did notice. Hard Home, there's clearly one actor playing the Night King who we had seen up to that point. Then in this season, and this is the season where, and I assume this is the reason behind it, they show the Night King as being turned into the Night King by the Children of the Forest, and they have that guy in the scene, and he now is the new Night King, who is very clearly a different actor. Because even under all the Night King makeup, the one thing that makes him very clearly a different actor is he has a huge schnoz. This is just gigantic. So it's like all of a sudden we had this badass Night King who's in all the gifts from the Hard Home thing, where he's like, "What's up, bro?" There's that Night King, and then there's the new Night King with a gigantic schnoz. And I was like, why did they? What was the point? And I guess it was just for that one scene where the guy gets stabbed. They decided to recast it or whatever. But it's like, why have this Night King now with this big dumb nose and close set eyes?
It looks like it's the same guy.
No, it's a different actor. I promise. But this is my thinking. This is the only thing that makes me. This is the only thing that makes.
Oh shit! It is a different actor.
It's a different guy.
Vladimir Furtick.
Yeah. And so why? Because the defining attribute of Bran is he is a huge fucking schnoz. Have you seen that kid?
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if this came up and they were like, we need to cast someone who looks like Bran or looks like older Bran.
It doesn't have to be his physical self. If it's his physical self, he would be in a fucking wheelchair.
We're talking about Game of Thrones.
The rolling Night King.
Yes.
I guess the idea is his identity.
Look, he's tied to a tree in this picture. He's tied to a chair. He's tied to a tree. I'm just saying, what if he goes back in time as adult Bran and gets Children of the Forest?
So then how does that fix? That's the fix. That was actually the cost, right? The cost of getting the use of his legs back.
I've forgotten about this entirely, by the way. Why the children? I don't want to know the answer, but I've forgotten about that entirely.
I really fucked that up.
But he has this huge nose, and Bran has a huge nose, and so if some part of that was the only thing that gave me pause. Because it annoyed me because like this new Night King looks dumb relative to the old Night King who looks more badass.
God, the old Night King was so fucking just.
Wasn't he cool? Remember when the show was also good?
That was a good time.
Okay, so what are they gonna drop the ball on more? The inevitable like fallout between Jon Snow and Dany, or the inevitable characterization of the Night King. Like, which one is gonna which one's gonna suck more?
I mean, there are no
more
kings.
Say dumb words.
Yeah.
When they make him say dumb words,
there are no
going to be stupid.
Yeah, there are no non-dumb words anymore. All the words are dumb at this point.
Dumb.
I'm just king of night.
Exactly. No, that's it. That's the level. That is it. What's great?
I need no iron throne. I have a throne of ice.
No, what he'll say is
ice to meet you.
Here's the funny thing:
all ice puns.
What it'll actually be is that there will be some shitty little nugget of a motivation for the Night King, subtext, and he'll just repeat it over and over again. To me, you are the intruders, and then he'll just say that in every scene. No. You call me an invader, but to me, you invaded my land. Next scene, you are the intruders to me.
This is all a long con, and the showrunners have just been so done with this forever.
He wins.
That the entirety of the next season is literally just the Night King walking around with his middle fingers out. Just like...
because, okay, so you know that George R. R. Martin is going to have some sort of like pretty fucking gnarly characterization of the Night King, because there's no way he's gonna allow some universal big bad to exist in his world, right? Yeah, they're gonna take a stab at that.
Yes,
and they're gonna fuck that up majorly.
Well, there's actually two ways it's going, because you're right. George R. R. Martin like has famously like I guess criticized Tolkien and like the way Tolkien's things end, and like, everything kind of wraps up. Like one of his things that he's talked about like a lot in the past has been like, well, all right, so yeah, like Aragorn and everyone, they win and Sauron's destroyed and all of that. What happens to all the orcs? Did Aragorn like lead like a whole genocide thing, like going into the woods,
genocide,
like you're just killing little orc babies in their tents?
Orc genocide is opening this weekend at Stubbs.
At Stubbs. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's like very clearly like Martin has a plan for how this is going to take the trope, subvert it, etc. So either they will take a stab at doing the same thing, they've got it in their outline somewhere, or they're just like, nah, this guy's just the big bad and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also, but I would say this in terms of introducing a big bad. I forget about how good Hardhome was in terms of introducing a big bad.
Yep.
Hardhome is a fucking awesome way of doing that.
Well, he was introduced in that flashback previously, but that was an amazing moment.
As like how bad this motherfucker is.
And that for me, Hardhome was.
Show me what you've got.
We have so many opportunities to transition to Rick and Morty, but I do want to say that Hardhome was the moment where like twice previously they were like, we got a real big battle for you guys at the Battle of the Wall, and it's just like it's like a few extras like dancing around in front of a shitty set wall, even so Hardhome was the first where the show just fucking jumped a motorcycle into like full on, not just cinema level, like movies level battle, but like an incredibly well executed cinema level battle. That was a crazy, scary, exciting, really cool thing that happened. And then at the end of it, he stands on the shore and all that. And it was,
so fucking cool.
Remember that show that we liked?
So good at some
actually
point.
One of the weirdest things where it's like that's a show invention as well. Like we talk about a lot how the George R. R. Martin stuff is the stuff that's good, and the show invention stuff is the stuff that's bad. But that was a moment where it's like, 30 minutes of that episode is just them inventing shit, making it work, setting up a big bad guy, and we care, and we're into it.
Keep in mind that the one highlight of this season is that I have enjoyed thus far is, again, the loot train battle. So what we know is that the directors of the show, and probably people who are not at all the writers of the show, are still competent and competent to create amazing battle scenes. Unfortunately, everything else sucks.
Yeah.
So,
but you know what doesn't suck?
Rick and Morty.
So
So
it's been
good.
2 weeks we haven't talked about it, and they've been 2 fucking great episodes.
Oh yeah,
we didn't talk about Whirly Durly.
Oh yeah, that was a good
and
episode.
then Rest and Relaxation.
Yeah.
Both of which were fantastic.
It was the B plot of Whirly Durly. I'm trying to remember. It was Rick and Jerry.
It was what's her face. Summer gets
giant
eyes.
Giant and then inside outed.
Yes. Oh, and that continues. By the way, the my theory, or just my enjoyment of the arc that Morty is becoming more and more competent. Like, and so in the previous episode previous to that, he defused the neutron bomb, and then in this episode, too many times, Rick. And then in this one, he's the one who in Rick's absence, figures out how to use the ray and is the kind of subject matter expert throughout that whole thing. And then at the end, like for no reason, just decides to visit badass retribution on Summer's ex-boyfriend.
It's not for no reason. That's actually the really great thing, is that like you can tell that the way Morty is dealing with all the shit that's going on is he's becoming more Rick-like.
Yes.
Like he's just like, fuck this guy,
and turns him
now
into
he's
a giant.
Cronenberg.
It turns into a big Cronenberg thing.
But also just the B plot of that episode, like. It's one of those things where it's like, it's a really fun episode and it's really cool, but like the B plot of that episode also continues Beth's slide into into her psychoses of just needing Rick's approval, needing like to validate that, and like needing to be able to be smart and like appreciate it and etc. Which is just, once again, like even in like little B plots and these like kind of things where it's like it could be a throwaway in any other show. Not a throwaway.
Nope.
Not a throwaway.
Do a great job of working characters into that.
Yes, and just the amusement park where no one can die and all of that stuff. So fun.
Oh, God.
And also it was just nice to see, like, we're in any other cartoon show or then Jerry's little development of actually, like, learning to respect himself would kind of reset at the beginning of the next episode. And this, you see Jerry kind of take a step forward in life, and which was nice. But to speak, because it's just fresher on my mind, to this week's episode, I guess. which is blank. What was this week's?
Rest and relaxation.
Oh, yeah,
the
rest
one where
and-
they go
yes.
into
The toxic
toxins
cells
get removed.
there.
That was a fucking great episode.
The start of the episode where he like pulls him, he's like 20 minutes tops, I promise.
Yes.
It's
6 days later.
6 days later, they're like, just recalculate, hit the thing, and then they like stop and like, oh god, oh, they're like crying, asking each other, why do you do this? Why do you keep doing this?
I know. I love that little montage of like explosions, and then it cuts to like a throne room scene where they're getting medals on them, and then just the ominous drone of just that big hangar of them walking to the ship. They close the door and just both start crying. That was great. So digging it, loving that. What I do love is just how fucking dark and weird the whole, like, when the toxins explosion happens and, you know, and, like, they get sent. Like, that's just a great, weird sci-fi premise that has been explored in other ways before, but the idea that, like, they split off and then we follow the other two characters. They are what
We're
was
the
removed.
toxins, Morty!
We are what was removed. It was very good. But my favorite bit of it is, like, self-actualized, no negativity Morty.
Jordan Belfort Morty there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Jordan Belfort Morty. So Morty, who I wish I had refreshed on it before this, but so many wonderful quotes like, "Hey, but that's just the way we gotta be," you know, and just and he eventually becomes, like, as they call him, a little American Psycho by the end of it. One of my favorite gags is when it turns dark, when it starts to turn a little bit ominous. So positive Rick comes up to positive Morty, and it's just like, maybe we should put the toxins back in. He says, well, Rick, that wouldn't be very healthy, and if it's not healthy for me, then that wouldn't be healthy for you, or whatever. He says something slightly ominous, walks away, and then a football just flies into frame, and he catches the football and then throws it back to someone all out of frame. Yes, and that's what everyone who goes on a keto diet is like.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
including myself.
You remove your toxins, and they live trapped inside of a toxic
Yeah,
world.
and just
I've
talk
only
down to
killed
everybody
8
else.
prostitutes so far,
Yes.
so I'm not yet up to the American Psycho level since I've gone keto, but it's getting there.
Oh God! When his date with Jessica goes south, and then he immediately turns his attention to some other
Like
girl at
that
the
other
bar.
girl, yeah.
They're like, aren't you a child? And then he says, "Hey, man, you know, this means I have a job. The job I want is pleasing you. I don't want to be good at it. I want to be bad at it. I want to fail at it. I want to do all this stuff." And then finally, she's like, "Fuck it."
Well, she goes, "Aren't you a child?" And his response is, "Only in the ways that matter."
And then when he gets out of the car, I love the we're just repeating things from the episode now.
Perform the whole thing. Why not?
Remember
We'll
when-
perform the whole episode, but my favorite, yes, I love he gets her out of the cab, runs over to Rick, and he says, "Rick, are you familiar with Benoit technology?"
So messed up.
Yeah, you know, that's really fascinating to me because on the opposite side of the spectrum of Game of Thrones, where the writing there has really suffered, Rick and Morty is like, we took a year and a half and we're delivering you the best Rick and Morty has ever been, which is crazy because it was already so fucking good to begin with. Which basically just tells us that season 7 and season 8 of Rick and Morty are going to be really fucking terrible. They're going to give us 6 good seasons.
So it's been up on the screen for a while here, but I do want to like talk about this. Apparently, after the Rick and Morty episode this past week, Adult Swim aired a little bumper, one of their bumpers that was R.I.P. The writing in Game of Thrones, 2011 to 2016. Rest in peace. You know, basically just stating, "Fuck you guys, we have the best show on TV, and you have failed."
Now, Justin Roiland and
neither
Dan
Dan Harmon nor
Said
Justin
they didn't have
Roiland
anything to do with it, but I think that was particularly funny. Same night, Game of Thrones was shitty. They have the best show on TV, and it was just funny to see the Adult Swim take a stab.
I know we've taken we're not talking about this show because you guys aren't watching it here, but this is also the same night when the best episode of Twin Peaks so far has happened, and it's pretty much been solidified as I've never been that overjoyed. I was literally just dancing around my living room alone, of course, no one else was watching with me as that was happening. I've never been that overjoyed.
So that made me
really sad.
I don't know.
That's some like Chase Long level sadness.
But
we
no.
can't tell if it's cutting to him. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have a monitor.
He lit the coffee table on fire. He was dancing around it. His clothes were everywhere. I walked in. It was very awkward.
Yeah, but I've not had a moment of pure joy from watching anything in art since it feels like years since watching last night's or this Sunday's episode, and it's becoming.
We're still not watching this stupid show clip.
Yeah, I will watch the show. I will watch the show. I just haven't done it yet.
I just don't know if I can last 13 or 14 hours of Dougie. it's good.
You're spoiling things already for people who haven't watched anything, so cut it out.
There is someone named Dougie. I will try and forget it.
Uh-huh.
But yes, I will catch up on Twin Peaks and then come back.
Anyway, yeah. Let's figure out what our next show is going to be, I guess, since this has turned into a weekly review.
Well, we're going to continue with Rick and Morty.
We're definitely
for the next.
continuing with Rick and Morty.
How many more do we have of Rick and Morty?
I don't know.
I have no idea how many episodes
I think it's maybe 10 episodes. So we might be about halfway done.
We're at 6 or 7 here.
At this, I think at this stage, I think we're good with just Rick and Morty. And then once Rick and Morty
ends
ends
in a month,
organically,
then we'll go that way.
Yeah,
we'll watch that.
And if anybody has any suggestions and we all agree to watch it and talk about it, then we will. And
Sounds
if
good.
not, then we won't.
And we can watch Insecure.
Ozark?
Ozark. Yeah,
that's a thing on Netflix. That's supposed to be pretty good.
That's that water brand. What is it?
Yeah, it's a show. It's also a show on Netflix starring Jason Bateman and Laura Dern right now.
That's right.
Oh no, guys, we only have 4 more episodes of Rick and Morty.
Oh god.
Yo, guys, the people on Facebook, all 6 of them, one of them being me.
Brutal, Jason.
They want to know. They want a little update on the Torque Mile.
Oh yes.
And
all right.
They want blood.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the deal with the Torque Mile. The Torque Mile, we can reveal this. The Torque Mile has transpired.
Yes.
It has taken place. So the first spoiler, we all survived. We all survived the Torque Mile. But it is now. We didn't want to just live broadcast it or do anything. So it was filmed, and that is being edited right now, and that will be delivered to you soon. And that is all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good.
But also, soon we'll start counting reviews again.
Oh yes,
and we'll have to set up the next thing.
We'll have to set the next thing. Which, by the way,
if it doesn't come up organically.
Let's check. We haven't checked reviews in the last couple weeks.
We're gonna do it after the Torque Mile.
Oh, we're doing it after.
That's the point. That's the whole thing.
So really, guys, everybody pack in those reviews because we're gonna read through them all, and we're gonna set up the next thing where we drink a bunch of pre-workout and Torque while doing 1,000 burpees.
So speaking of the comments as well, I've noticed we have some people from Houston in the comments.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if
Enrique, we've got you, bud.
Yeah. And I don't know.
Did we send anything?
In our podcast?
Our thoughts and prayers.
In our podcast lines. No, I'm from Houston. Cliff and Kyle here.
Family is from that area.
All of our family is from that area, the Port Arthur Beaumont area.
Yep.
So please, 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 please donate money. Donate money. United Way is apparently doing a lot of good stuff. The Greater Houston Community Foundation has been set up. That is actually the city of Houston set up a whole deal to help out people in need, as well as the Houston Food Bank and the Southeast Texas Food Bank for Port Arthur, Beaumont, that whole area. Check that out as well as animal shelters in the areas. That's another thing. They need help as well. There's a lot going on right now, and they can all use cash. That's the big thing.
Yes.
Like, not items, not food, cash.
Cold,
take the money,
cash.
and they will
build a wall.
Build a raft out of cash.
All the money.
Yes, more coming soon, etc. But there's it's still going on. Port Arthur, where our whole family is from, was flooded last night, and so we had three different houses of 3 members of our family all got flooded out, and they were all displaced last night. So, more information online. Donate to Houston now.
Yeah, hopefully that clears up sooner rather than later because that really sucks.
And I'll send Armin. I'll send you a couple of these different links.
Yep, I'll put them up in the show description.
You guys know what to do. Come on, you're good people.
Instead of leaving reviews, give money.
Yeah, or do both.
Nah.
Or do both.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for listening.
1,000 burpees.
No.
Full Metal Jacked.
Anyway, I'm not even
doing
gonna
a
take
Torque
your plugs.
at every 100 burpees.
I don't want your plugs. That's it. Wrapping it up. Peace.